Adam Morrison here. When it comes to top-tier contracting, my go-to choice is McGillivray Environmental. They're not just any contractor, they're the best in Spokane and North Idaho. With years of experience, they handle it all. New construction, meticulous repairs, and asphalt overlays. From start to finish, they ensure your project is completed with the highest quality end results. And here's the scoop for this year. McGillivray Environmental has expanded its services to include asphalt paving. That means top-notch commercial parking lots, residential driveways, and road construction. So, ready to kickstart your project? Reach out to Kip at McGillivray Environmental by calling 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. Don't forget to mention my name, Adam from the Perimeter, and experience the difference that McGillivray Environmental brings to the table. Again, that's 208-556-6384, McGillivray Environmental. My number one choice for all my contracting needs.
HDG Architecture is proud to be a sponsor of The Perimeter with Adam Morrison. There is another podcast that you all should be listening to, and it's called If Not Now, When? This podcast, which Josh Hassong of HDG Architecture hosts, has a clear mission to ignite positive change within the Spokane community. On the podcast, Josh brings together diverse individuals from city officials, business owners, journalists, influencers, and big thinkers to have meaningful conversations about what we can do to help transform downtown Spokane into an even more vibrant and robust community. By talking to these movers and shakers, the podcast aims to inspire and empower its listeners by actively shaping their city's future. You can find the If Not Now When podcast wherever you are listening to The Perimeter at, or you can find it in the description of this episode.
Welcome back to The Perimeter, Season 3, Episode 9, sponsored by McGillivray Environmental. I'm here with Brendan, the producer, but kind of some breaking news. It's kind of ties into my podcast, obviously, The Perimeter. Washington State and Oregon State, two local teams, obviously definitely one, joining the West Coast Conference in basketball. Mm-hmm. Kind of not a shock, but it is kind of a shock in the sense that I thought it was to be a Mountain West for them for hoops, since they joined for the affiliate scheduling they talked about for football. So he was like, well, they're just going to join for basketball. But it probably makes more sense travel-wise just to stay, similar travel to the Pac-12. But it brings a local component to it because there's a lot of Cougar fans and Cougar alumni in this area.
Yeah.
That obviously are somewhat Zag fans, too, on the basketball side. I've heard that a lot from people. So, and then Oregon State, Coach Tinkle's kind of have some roots here. His daughter played for the women's team, and he coached at Montana when Gonzaga used to play Montana regularly. So it's kind of different. I think it's going to bring it brings some extra clout to the West Coast Conference because they're bigger schools. Mm-hmm. Bigger universities. As far as basketball on the men's side, I think Kyle Smith's got that program going in the right direction. Oregon State had an Elite Eight run a few years ago, hasn't been very good since, and I mean that with all due respect, but just hasn't. Mm-hmm. But they're two former Pac-12 schools, so I think it's going to help, as far as our RPI and KenPom, and hopefully those programs continue to be good. It makes you wonder, is that a play for the West Coast Conference to try to keep Gonzaga to stay in instead of going to the Big 12 if we're accepted? That's the big if.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of what ifs and what have yous and money and stuff like that has to be into play. Now, I know this is a men's basketball podcast, but it's definitely going to affect the women's side. The Lady Cougs won the Pac-12 last year.
Yeah.
They're a very good program. If you're Gonzaga or Portland, who've been the two best teams in the West Coast Conference on the girls' side, that's a big ad. Mm-hmm. And creates great competition. But that's a big ad to. I don't know how good Oregon State is, but I'm sure they're decent as well.
Yeah,
on the women's side, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it affects both men's and women's. So. I think it's cool because now we get a Gonzaga, Washington State home and home. and people have kind of behind the scenes asked why don't we ever play them home and home like we used to. There was no value for us to play them, and I know that hurts people's feelings, but it's one of those like, well, why would we play a team that even if we win, it's not going to help our Ken Palm out, but then they're a local chance, so then there's a little bit extra fervor on their side. You know what I'm saying? And people never take that into account. No, and it bothers people because they're proud alums or they're, well, that stuff doesn't matter. There's formulas to getting seedings and stuff like that. Especially
now in today's world. Like I feel like back almost maybe 10 plus years ago, Gonzaga would typically play WSU, even Eastern, like, but I think that was
Montana.
I think that was just more because of proximity and Gonzaga wasn't the program that they are today, right?
Yeah, it was more of a, well, it used to be home and home. And here's where it all started. We were home and home with Montana the year before I got there. And this is going back for hardcore Zag fans, but we won, I think, in overtime in Missoula. We had to come back and storm back. That's when we had like Turioff, I think Dickow, Stepp. Like those are good teams. But I think Coach Fee was like, "Yep, we're never coming back here." You know what I mean? And then we used to do the Eastern in the arena, and those got testy where they got closer for comfort, not in a bad way, but it got where like, we're playing these guys and we have more to lose than you do, and you have nothing to lose, and it got chippy. And that's when Giacoletti was there, and then obviously he became on staff with Fuey, so they were buddies. So that aspect got weird too, because when you don't want to play your friends,
that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Because it gets chippy in a good or bad way, but like it's just not. Nobody likes to play their buddies, and I totally agree with that. And then the Washington State deal. My sophomore year, we won I think we won by like 3 or something like that down there, and we should have won by a lot more.
Right.
We ain't going back. You know what I mean? And so that's where it kind of started. And again, this is not a knock on Coug fans, but like your basketball program, besides the Aaron Baines and whoever I forgot the name of the little point guard that was there. Like you've had some good teams, obviously Klay Thompson, but like during those years, it's just like scheduling wise, it didn't help us. So I think it's cool that it's coming back.
Yeah,
it has to come back.
Yeah,
but it'd be cool to have a game down in Pullman.
Yeah,
and
no
game
kidding.
Up here, so it's cool for the local aspect. I think it's great. The league had to expand somehow, but the huge but is it's 2 years. So what are they preparing for? Is it the West Coast Conference preparing for trying to create a Pac-12 where they're kind of the Pac-12 now type of deal? Or is it the Pac-2 or the Pac-12, right?
Yeah.
Are they saying, all right, we got to get scheduling done, and then let's start, start asking teams, hey, in 2 years when the TV deal's up, or we got a new everybody's TV deals come up or whatever, from the Mount West, we're going to pick, San Diego State, we're going to pick Wyoming or whatever you view the biggest market is, and create a Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever it is. So that's where I'm a little bit curious, but obviously that's a time will tell, and that's me just thinking out loud and wondering. I have no inside information on that, if that's what it is, but that's what it seems like. But cool, we got 2 other spots we can go to now, and like I said, there's a home and home with a local feel to it, and I like it.
I do like it. I thought I had like multiple texts from people, and they're like, "Did you hear?" And I'm like, and I got on Twitter, and it was, I think I got more excited about it initially, and then you step back and you look at the Ken Palm and WSU's pretty good this year. They've had some good wins, and they're having a good record. But like Oregon State, it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, it is a wash. I mean, that's not a knock. They had that great Elite Eight run a few years ago, but they haven't been good since. That's not a knock. I know Wayne a little bit. He's a nice guy, and he's a good coach, obviously, but they haven't had very good talent there after the Elite Eight run, after that good class. So hopefully he can bring it back, but it's great for the for the West Coast Conference. So again, it's going to be something that adds a local flair to it, and then also what's the steps going forward is what I think this the check mark, the beginning of it. And that's what, if I was a fan and obviously a commentator on this stuff, is what I'm going to be looking for. What's the next steps? Is the West Coast Conference preparing for something, or are they trying to hold a Gonzaga, or is Washington State, Oregon State saying, hey, all right, we like your league, but we want to get rid of X and X, and then we'll invite X and X, and we'll make a Pac-10 again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a real thing, because like the West Coast Conference, I think in volleyball, solid, right? Obviously, it's solid in basketball. Obviously, there's no football, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works out. But again, I know this is a men's basketball thing, but it really affects the girls' side. It's
even more so, yeah.
Yeah, way more so.
Right.
It just does, because, like I said, Washington State beat the girls this year down there. It was a fantastic game overtime, but they won the Pac-12 last year. They're a great program. So that's like,
Yeah.
here comes another, big program. And not that Lisa and Craig and the staff don't have the talent, but it's like, we got you got another challenger. Portland's good too as well. So it'll be interesting on the girls' side. But yeah, let's get back to kind of a recap. Usually I start off with a recap, but that was kind of big news for the West Coast Conference. Game against UConn in
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Greens! How's everything going today?
Hey, Robert. We're good. Just checking in on that car loan we applied for.
No worries. Let me pull that up. Yep, looks like you're approved and all set.
Hey, that's great news.
So, you headed over to the dealership now?
Yep, just gotta make one stop first.
And we got a great rate, too.
game against UConn in the Continental Tires kickoff or something like that?
Something like that.
Classic. They were rolling tires at halftime.
Oh, really?
I know that. Yeah, they were
I
doing
think it was
some
a
tire
Continental
deal.
Tire Classic.
I was like, hey, I knew the promoter, like, hey, can I get $200 off snow tires with studs on them? Like, wink, wink. I should have.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
Right.
Actually, it would have been nice. That's a good Christmas present, even if I didn't get it for myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take it. You got any coupons, QR codes? Anyway, we talked about it going in. It's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
We knew that. I think UConn is one of the best teams in the country. The numbers show it. So going in, and this is not just me. I try not to, say I'm, the all-knowing God expert of Gonzaga and the current team and blah, blah, blah. But this was a really hard game for us, just matchup-wise. Mm-hmm. And so I think I conveyed that in the previous episode. Did I? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the nicest way. But I was like, I have faith in these guys. They can do it because they played really good against a Purdue team and had a lead. But it felt like the Purdue game all over again.
All
over again. We're a really good big inside that has a size difference that you can't even match with the Klingon kid. I think he's 7'1", 7'2", and good, not just a blob. And then they had space the floor shooters, and then they had like lockdown defenders. And it was like, oh, that's what Purdue looks like.
Yeah.
And we did a really good job against Purdue in the first half. And then I was kind of thinking, well, maybe it's a home court game. Technically not, but you know what I mean? It's a home court game, and hopefully the crowd can get behind us, and maybe that'll help us. And maybe guys will step up shooting-wise. And we just started the game so flat. Mm-hmm. The Klingon kids scored 8 of their first points. I think it was 4 for 5 to start the game, 2 dump downs, and then 2 post-up, like seals. I think that was 8-0, and then Nemhard got us to. He made 3 field goals in a row, which was nice. But it was just pure 1-on-1. And what was scary at the start, what they were doing, if you have talented guards, is they're basically face guarding, denying all of our dribble weave action, and forcing everything out on top and giving the outlet passes to Anton and Graham, your pressure releases, which are fine, but you don't want to run them the whole game.
Yeah.
So did you notice how Anton was getting the ball early because everything was denied and they were face guarding, and then they were just going over the top on a ball dribble weave action. So when I saw that, I was like, ooh, we're going to have to really play good to get through this. And what you have to do is be stronger mindset, to be honest. and get open closer to the 3-point line. If you watched in that first half, we were running our offense by like the circle, and that's never never going to win basketball games like that. And it's not knocking our guys, but they were running through our actions. Their guards were just instructed to, completely overplay everything, and we couldn't get through our counters. So I thought their first half, defensive scheme was brilliant. We hung with them for the most part. There was a couple good stretches where, they'd get up 8 and then we cut it to 4, but we never had that, 6 to 8 point run that we've seen in the past. And that's, I think, been one of the, difficult things for this team this year is that quick offensive punch. Not that it's not going to happen, but we haven't seen it in the bigger games yet.
No, yeah.
Yeah, just think of in the last 5 years, we've had teams that can score 6, 8, 10 really fast sometimes. So like, even if you start the game off slow, like, oh, we're going to come back. Or we're up 4, then all of a sudden you look up at the halftime, we're up 14. It's like, oh, game's over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We just hadn't have that in this basketball game. We really haven't had it this year except like USC, right, where we scored in bunches. And that was kind of the first half where we just kept hanging around, but we could never, hit a 3 and get a good stop. Crowd still in it, throw it ahead, pull up 3, boom, 6-0 run. Crowds, boom,
Yeah.
dun, 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 all that stuff.
Totally.
So, going into the second half at the end of the first half, we were down 11, and it was one of those weird feelings. It was like, okay, we could be down 20. I'm just being honest, because they were 17 for 27. That's 63%. That's obviously really good. And then 7 for 9 from 3.
Yeah.
And we were 1 for 3, 14 and 20, 14 for 29. It's not bad. 48%. But it was like, they could have been up 20. Like if, they missed some easier ones, even though they made 63%. But then you're also like, all right, we're only down 11. It's not impossible. I just didn't feel good about it at all, because they have everything in their lineup that it looks like our club, I think in 2017, 2018, 2019, where we had really good, strong, big guards, a couple pros inside, switch everything, 3-point shooters. If you do that, you throw it inside. It's just like one of those where you're kind of trying to go, what's our weakness? And you're trying to like make stuff up at the end of it. 'Cause you're just trying to be like, you can't just tell them they're great the whole time. That's what UConn felt like. They feel like they did last year. They lost 3 guys to the NBA, and I'm like, they look the same.
Right. Yeah, they look great.
They look great. Just like they got like 4 really big guards that are quick and athletic. They got the Spencer kid that can shoot snot out of it, and that's kind of his role. He knows that. Klingon is really good. He's a size differential. They have those 2 bigs off the bench. I can't remember what's his name. What was the kid's name? I think it's Johnson.
Johnson, yeah.
Pick and dive guy. Like that's all he does. Right, just straight up. I'm gonna just roll my tail off and then protect the rim. Like that's perfect. And then, like I said, solid guards. Newton's good. Spencer's good. I thought the Diarra kid off the bench was really good. It was just like they check a lot of boxes in the lineup. So, like I said, coming into that second half, you're like, all right, maybe there'll be a push. Hopefully, we can get something going, because we scored right at the end of the first half, and then
to make it 11 points, right?
Yeah, to make it to 11.
Yeah.
There was 2 mistakes that were critical in that first half defensively that kind of got Spencer going. I got to go over it, and it's a synopsis of kind of where this team's at during some of their struggles. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm saying it the right way. That's why I'm pausing and trying to think through it. There was a play where they run an action to a split post, and then they run a flex action. Everybody knows flex action is a flex cut on the baseline and then a down screen. Used to be an offense used widely. I ran it in high school or in college. It's kind of faded away, but it's a good action. So you mix it into some of your sets, and it's like old school basketball. We went 1-man removed on Spencer, when I guarantee, like in the scouting report, every time he gets a wide pin down or something, it's a lock and trail, push him, make him curl, shoot a tough 2, but you don't go 1-man removed and then he flares out bangs a three, and I looked right at Fewy because they were right next. I just, I'm always looking at his facial expression on the bench, kind of getting the feel of the game. So I'm calling it too. So, I'm not just like, what is he? I'm just like trying to get, so I convey to the audience what's going on. And he just shook his head because it's just like, you can't do that. Okay. Then we had another possession where Braden Huff's been fantastic all this year, but we go into our 30 press. We tried to speed him up. Okay. They throw it to the dead middle to, I think it was, let me think of the kid. I think it was Castle. So an offensive player, but not a great threat. Okay. So they're breaking the press. They get across half court. They throw it to the middle. He's not going to shoot, or he's probably going to drive and kick, but they don't want him to do that. They're just like, catch it in the middle, wait till your guards get across and throw back, then we run our offense. That's what UConn's saying. Yeah. Braden Huff sprints over, helps. You never help from the strong side with a shooter ever. They throw it to Spencer. Remember that? Yeah. Bang, corner three. So then that's a 6 point. You get what I'm saying? That's 6 points. We give their best shooter 2 wide open threes off like just simple like scouting mistakes.
Right.
And I think so that's where I think sometimes the issues with this team come across. We have the talent. We're 15th in the country. We're 8-3 or whatever. What are we?
8-3.
8-3. We're fine. But also it's like if you want to win some of these bigger games, you can't do those things. You know what I'm saying? So like when we convey these things or I talk about it, it's like I still think this team is going to be fantastic. Just like last year, we were 15-5. We talked about it. Remember, the sky's falling. This team's terrible. We go to the Elite Eight, right?
Yeah.
I think we have that same ability. But some of these mistakes are just so basic. I talked about it a couple episodes with June in the Washington game why he didn't play. He doubled on the strong side, and the guy throws it back door, and they get a layup. And then you hear people, how come they don't use June? It's like, you can't do that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you can make mistakes, but some of that stuff you just can't do. So going into that half, I was like, man, we could be down 5 or 6 if we just eliminate some of these and didn't play very good. I mean, we played okay. We shot 14-20, but didn't light the world on fire. And so that's where I think the frustrating part is like, man, if we just clean up some of these simple things, because I know it's not a coaching thing, and that's just me being completely honest. I love the fellas. Fewy and the staff been great to me, and I have no reason to protect them. I'm not connected to them besides just calling games. You know what I'm saying? They prepare these boys as good as you can get prepared for. I see that. I go to the shoot-arounds. I go to the scouts. I do all that. You're getting all the information you need, man. And so things like that just really kill us in tight games or bigger games where you're going to get punished with teams. Now, if you go one man removed or you go lock and trail on that kid and Spencer still hits a floater in your face, you just go, good job.
Right.
And then if you're Braden in that spot and you bluff and get back and Castle, whoever I mentioned, goes and lays it up and he gets a 2, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like there's counters to everything. But those type of mistakes are killing us. So going into the second half, sorry, it was a long-winded point, but I had to make it of where the gaps it seems to be sometimes in these bigger games.
I should ask, like at halftime, what is you think Coach Few is saying to the like they're trying to fix these mistakes like at halftime, obviously, like they're trying to point out like all of the like what you're saying and like don't do that, Braden.
I think it's a. I imagine he's not a screamer or yeller unless it's like absolutely necessary. Yeah. You'll see the disdain and the frustration in his voice, and that's normal for any human beings to be like, he's probably like, what are we doing here? Like, come on. So he's probably just like, hey, we told you, and then we got to try to do this, but he's never like, he's not going to hammer a guy in the middle of a game. Yeah. Because that, to me, as a coach, that doesn't make sense. Wait till after, then you can go watch film, and if you really want to hammer them, then you hammer and they deserve it. Yeah. Right. It's, hey, just Division I basketball, blah, blah, blah. If you want to play middle of the game, it doesn't really make sense. Right. So I don't think, but he definitely probably got the message across. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I just think like, obviously he's not screaming at the kid, the guys and everything. I just like, is there adjustments you can make other than like, just don't do what you're doing? Like,
not really, because the adjustment is the adjustment is you didn't do the plan A.
Okay, right.
That's the adjustment.
Right.
Yeah. So like if you did plan A and didn't work, then that's when it's on the coaching staff.
Right.
And they always have plan B, plan C.
Gotcha.
So that's the adjustment.
Yeah.
Do plan A. Do what we told you,
I
dumbass.
just feel like I'm a big Seahawks fan, and whenever I watch the Seahawks and they do bad in the first half, I'm always like, well, they're going to make second half adjustments. They're amazing at making second half adjustments, like a lot of NFL teams are. And then watching the Zags, I'm like, well, like I don't think UConn's going to go at this streak of shooting 77, like 77% from the three, 63% from the field, like. But then again, like I'm just like, what kind of adjustments can we make? And I just don't know if there was like something that the coaches are saying to the guys.
Like the game plan was fine in my opinion. And again, this is not just me saying it to say it. Like they got to their numbers, but we're going to get into the second half. They scored under their season average. So I don't think it wasn't a defensive thing.
Right.
It was issues guarding Klingon, which is a tough matchup for anybody.
Right.
It was one of those kind of like Purdue where you had to play him one-on-one and you kind of had to live with some of the stuff that he gets. But then if you make those mistakes or double down, they have shooters everywhere, and they showed that. But we didn't double down. My point is, but they still got shooters everywhere, so that's why you didn't double down. So yeah, I schematically I thought it was fine, and I hope the listeners that I've listened to new listeners and listeners that have listened to us since day one, they know I would say I thought the scheme was fucked up.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So I thought it was fine. Going into that second half, like I said, I thought there'd be a chance, but it had to be one of those. I said it on my broadcast, like first media always talk about media timeouts. They're like 5-minute segments. You got to win the next media. We got to be down like 5 or 6 in this one. Like we can't let it in the opposite happen.
Yeah.
They just blew it to like 16, 17, and we just could not find a rhythm. Nobody really played good for us in totality. Anton did okay. I mean, he had 20. I'm not saying okay, but he shot 6 of 15. He just had the ball in his hands more than he's used to. It was great from the free throw line, 7 of 9. So he's the only one, if you're like really breaking it down, it's like he's the one that kind of showed up. Graham was not good, 2 of 5, 5 rebounds, only 5 points, kind of got his butt kicked inside. Nemhard played okay, 7 of 16, 6 assists, 15 points. Let's see, Nolan didn't have a great game, 3 of 10, 8 points, 3 assists, 4 turnovers. Dusty was okay, 3 of 6, 6 rebounds, 8 points. I thought he looked extremely active. He wasn't just hanging around the 3-point line. He was trying to make other things happen. So I was, from a freshman standpoint, I was like, okay, he's trying to like get himself going. I was pleased with that. Braden didn't play good, 0 for 4. No points. Ben Gregg, 2 for 3, 6 points in 16 minutes. Big stat. 5 assists, 11 turnovers. Usually that's, at least we try to get to 15 in less than 10. We win +6 on the glass. UConn was +14, but I said it on the broadcast. You can win the rebounding battle when we're shooting 77 from 3 and 63 in the first half. You're getting it out of the net. You know what I mean? Like, cool.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And so, like, it was cool that we did that, but we just could not get anything going. But, talking about teams going cold from 3, they start 7 of 9, they go 0 for 8 from 3 in the second half. So like, it's not just a Gonzaga thing, right? These other teams have stretches. We've just had too many stretches like that.
Yeah,
2 for 12.
Yeah,
the whole game from 3.
Yeah, it did. I didn't feel like in the second half we could even buy a 3.
No, we were 1 for 3 in the first,
Yeah.
1 for 9 obviously in the second. Second half field goal percentage, 9 for 30%. We just could not get anything going. Defensively, UConn looked great. Here's the stat of the night. No consecutive field goals in the second half for us.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Didn't make 2 baskets in a row.
I mean, I watched
The
that
whole
second
second
half.
half.
I was just like, it just felt like I didn't know who they were going to give the ball to score because it didn't seem like
nobody's
anybody
over
was
them.
going to score. Like it just was.
Just
It
no
was
rhythm.
frustrating to watch, like as a fan. But then also at the same time, it's like UConn just looked really, really good.
UConn was good, man.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, like I said, we had the same situation happen last year.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference between this year's team and last year's team was, there was two go-to guys that are playing in the NBA or in an NBA league right now.
Yeah.
Drew Timmy is the all-time leading scorer, and now Julian Strother's playing great minutes for Denver. Now, I'm not saying any of our guys won't make it to the league. Do not take that out of context. But right now, who do we throw the ball to? Nolan's played good the whole season. He's only had 2 games where he hasn't scored over double figures. So I kind of want to make sure that we're understanding that Nolan's having a good season. He's shooting the ball. Didn't play good in this game, but he's played well for the most part this entire season. Nemhard was okay. He's got to be better with the basketball. He's got to be more efficient. Graham's got to play better. I mean, I could sit here and just kill. I'm not trying to do that. My point is, we can't go 9 from 30 in the second half. And the problem is when we have stretches like that in the past, and maybe somebody emerges. Again, this is I gotta make sure I quantify or say this the right way. Somebody could emerge of this, but in the past when we're having struggles like that, all right, let's throw it to Wilcher, let's throw it to Domus, let's throw it to Drew. Right. You know what I mean? Like, here, Kispert, here you go. Come off a curl, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have that this year. Maybe it happens,
and it seems like
I'm not saying it won't.
It seems also when Graham's down and low, and he has another big body guy down there, he struggles. And,
well, and
that's just.
I think that's everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, a 7-2 is hard to go against. I think.
Yeah,
Graham,
that's true.
Yeah, I think Graham just needs to get deeper touches, and kind of work earlier for his baskets. Because it's, I think at Wyoming they just threw it to him every single time. Like here, your possessions are going to be lower because we're more of a team-oriented offense and we have more talented guys. Nothing against Wyoming, so he's got to work earlier to get deeper touches, if that makes sense. Because they will throw you the ball and they'll get instructed to. So I think that's what he needs to do. He's had a good season so far, so let's not. He's not played bad. He's just had a really bad game in Seattle. Yeah, they all did. So yeah, it was a frustrating one, but it wasn't something that completely shocked me because I knew this was going to be an uphill battle. And like I said, I'm never going to come on here and just say that and pat myself on the back. But going into that game, it was like, well, this is going to be a really hard game for us. I love our guys, but this will be really hard. And it was. And UConn's really good. But like I said, we had a team last year that was 15-5, lost to LMU at home, and I remember playing poker locally at the Black Pearl, and like 3 people, what's going on with Gonzaga? What do you mean? I kind of play dumb sometimes. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
they just lost at home. I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean. So like the world's not ending. It's okay, but the sample size number is the 3-point shooting is a concerning thing. There's the sample size big enough. What are we shooting from 3?
Yeah,
right
I have
now?
the team stats right here.
Team stats, 32%.
Yeah.
So on 223 attempts on 11 games, our best guy is Anton shooting 8 of 20. So basically 2 a game at 40%. Well, actually, Ben Gregg and Braden are shooting 41 and 45, 10 and 24, 10 and 22. But there are 2 bench guys.
Yeah.
So that needs to get better. Now, you want to get to like 38. So, like, we can't sit here and be like, they should be shooting 42 as a team. That hardly ever happens. So, like, if we can get to 38 on volume, because we shoot not a ton, but we shoot about the normal average, then we'll be fine. I said it on the broadcast, and this has to be taken in the right context too, but like, we're never going to be, I don't think we're an elite 3-point shooting team this year, but we're not even good. We got to get to good.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's just that's with sample size. That's with plenty of numbers. That's not these guys can't do it, but we just haven't done it yet. And there's been enough games. So that's where I think the improvement level has to happen. And it's one of those things where it's like free throw shooting. I know they practice them. I know the guys practice them on their own.
Yeah.
I know we run actions to get open ones. It's one of those where you just go, come on, Charlie, let's do it. slap them on the butt and say, come on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's not like a scheme thing. It's not anything else. It's like, hey, man, you got to make shots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of where we're at. So hopefully, there's a game tonight. And then we have, big game, San Diego State, who I'll preview in a second. It's got to start happening going into conference too, because it is a big part of your offense, a big part of kind of our wave action, high ball screens, open ones. You got to have floor spacers. And again, it goes back to the Steele Venters injury, man. We didn't think it was as big as we thought.
Right.
And we're assuming that Steele's good. He was a big-time three-point shooter, but obviously, he didn't do it yet in a Gonzaga uniform. But still, it's proven to be bigger than we originally expected. Not saying he, wasn't a great player and Big Sky Player of the Year, but like just a three-point threat really helps open the floor up. So they can get there.
Yeah, they can. They definitely can.
They can. But if I wouldn't be doing my job or doing the right thing for the podcast if I didn't, kind of explain why and what I think is the issues right now with some of these bigger games.
What's your take on Ryan Nembhard shooting like 18% from the three? Because that seems that's the most glaring thing on that on the thing because he has volume, but he doesn't. Yeah, he's not making anything.
6 of 32. I think it's something that obviously has to change.
Yeah.
He's having a good season for the most part. He's averaging 12, 59 assists, so 11 games. So almost how many assists a game? 59, 60 times. So 6 a game, basically.
Yeah,
Let's just go 6 a game. That's not bad.
No.
And he's 31, so it's 2-1. It's good. 2-1 assist to turnover, basically. Yeah, that's not very good.
I guess I imagine it's just.
I think he needs to take better ones.
Right.
I think that's part of it. Like especially early in the season when he was playing at Maui, he was taking bad ones, like off balance and stuff like that, or contested ones. Some of them were bad. Like I'd say it on the air, like that's not a good shot. So I think that's got to be his biggest thing. I think he's got to seek more off ball screen action too if they go under. But yeah, the 6 of 32 is not great, but he has time to turn it around. If he can get to 35 on the season, then it'll be a huge win. Yeah, I didn't even notice that, and maybe he's got to take less. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard. But yeah, so we have 2 basically big games. Well, I'll say 3, but 2 basically big games on the schedule coming up. Not saying the West Coast Conference doesn't matter, but like Ken Palm, RPI, type games. San Diego State's the next one. Obviously Kentucky, and I think it's in February. I'll put it St. Mary's in there. I don't know what their Ken Palm's at, but they just got a good win against Colorado State. Maybe they're turning their season around. So the San Diego State game is highly critical that we play well and win this basketball game on the 29th. I think it's 29th.
The 29th.
29th. 8-3, obviously went to the national championship game last year. Not as dominant as last year, but still a very good basketball, 8-2, very good basketball team. They're probably going to win their league, so it's one of those where if you can, or they're going to contend for it. I think Boise State has a chance in the Mountain West as well. Leon Rice. Yeah, so we don't have very many of these bigger games in non-conference, so like we've got to win this game.
Yeah, this is
it's a really big game.
This would be a quad 1 win.
Yep, quad 1. Yep.
Yeah, so we have to win this game. I feel like in the world of must wins, like this is probably for seeding purposes, right? Like I still think Gonzaga's a tournament team. Obviously, I think we both agree to that. But like, you need to have those bigger ones to get better seeding at the end of the.
And if you like have a weird situation where you lose like in the semis, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, then you need some of these to be like, well, we're still a tournament team. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is a big game. San Diego State's good. I kind of like how they're doing this series. I think we played them in like 17 or 18. I remember we lost to them down there. I think might have been my first or second year broadcasting, and it was with Rui and that crew, Perk, and we just had an off game, and they blew us out, and we had to fly home. Somehow I got on the charter, and so we flew back. We had to like fuel up in some weird small airport and it was really cold, so we had to wait in the lobby at like 2 a.m. and I was like 10 feet from Fewy and Tommy Lloyd, and hearing them argue about what we should do going forward, and like the sky is falling with Coach Few. Sometimes that's funny. Was comical, and I still remember. It's we can't run ball screen stuff. Like, we got to go back to running flag. Like, just when bonkers. He was so mad. We played so terrible, and our guards were terrible that game. It was Perk and I think Silas, whoever was on with Silas. They were just bad. And Perk had they all had great careers, but they were bad that game. Couldn't throw a pocket pass, like just dog shit.
Yeah. Killian Tilly had 7 points that game.
Yeah, we were terrible.
Yeah, it was a bad game.
It was a bad game, and just I remember like having to like not smile in front of when I'm hearing them two argue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When people are like, when it's funny, but you're like, I can't laugh right now. So yeah, it's cool that we're redoing that deal. No, I think it's a home and home. Maybe do we go back there next year?
I think it's a home and home. Yeah,
sweet. So I got to go to San Diego. So awesome. Yeah, keep playing them. But yeah, it's a big game. They are a really good team, and like I said, went to the tournament last year. They got a kid, Jaden Leedy, averaging 23 a game.
Wow,
really good player. Shoot 56%, almost 40 from three. And a couple other guys averaging over double figures. So got a quality win against St. Mary's. They lost to BYU, who's having a really good year, and then lost to Grand Canyon, who I think is ranked now or close. But they beat Point Loma, they beat California, beat UW in overtime. So not a daunting schedule, but a very good basketball team that would be a quad one win and has a chance to win their league.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully the Kennels rocking. Our guys will probably get 2-3 days off, I imagine, to go home for Christmas. I don't know how much time Fewy's going to give them off, but hopefully, they can go see their families and get right. But it's going to be interesting to see how we perform in that game. It's nice that it's at home, but it's turned out bigger than maybe originally thought.
Right. I think the idea would imagine when you're making a schedule like this, you think like you've got. Well, I mean, you can't really plan for Purdue because that was a invitational game, but
yeah.
I think you want one of those wins, and having it be San Diego State is I think this was probably always circled as a win for most people, but this team just seems to be, we get these off, I don't want to call them off games, but we get we're playing like you said, Jackson State tonight, and we go and we roll those teams, and then we have the more quad 1, quad 2 games, and it always seems like they've just been coming kind of flat in those games. But this is a home game. It's a home game, and that's really big.
It's a semi-home game because I'm assuming the break will still be on.
Oh, right.
So I wonder if the students will be there.
Students won't be there.
It'll be interesting. So hopefully the people sitting in the student section will get going. But yeah, it's a big time game. They're a good team, and I'm curious to see how we play. Honestly, so yeah, it'll be fun. Do we got any Xmas and Christmas and New Year's questions?
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, it's Olive. I just got my first ICCU debit card. Now I just need some money in my account. If only there was someone who could transfer in some allowance.
Wow.
Do we got any Xmas and Christmas and New Year's questions?
I kind of had a question. We don't have any listener questions right now, but I had a in the spirit of Christmas, I wanted to ask if you were giving Gonzaga a present for Christmas, what would you give this team? And I don't know if it's a player or if it's an ability that they need.
Yeah.
If you could
it's obvious.
Yeah, it's
3-point shooting.
Yeah,
that's that.
Yeah, I feel like that's it. It's just really.
It's not the end all be all. There's other strengths and weaknesses that we have, but 2 for 12, 0 for 9 in the second half against UW, 0 for 16 against Purdue. I think it was 6 for 23 against UCLA, even though we won that game. You know what I mean? You just there's too much. The game that we blew out USC, we're 12 of 22. Look, we blew them out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just such a great equalizer. in talent, not that we don't have it, but in talent and mismatches, and it allows you to open up the lane, especially with our guards who are a little bit smaller. So if you have floor spacers, the lanes become wider. It's just such a big difference. It really is.
And we never really talk about this, like these other games, the games outside of the like top 200 Ken Palm. But like in those games, we don't have problems shooting the ball that often. Do we? I mean, and it's not.
Well, we never hit like 10.
No, we never hit. Yeah,
we never get tacos.
There's a meter at the kennel where if Gonzaga hits 10, we get tacos.
Tacos, yeah. We haven't done it. I think we've only done it maybe once this year. I know we did it at the girls' game. I still have the ticket in my wallet.
I remember last year there was a couple of years where we got it in the first half.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That is the biggest difference. So.
Yeah, it's just a huge difference. And again, the sample size is big enough, so we're not just doing this after like 1 week of the season and there's 2 bad games, and you're like, oh my god. It's like no, we kind of have to, if we're a podcast and a commentary that's worth anything and that's honest, we have to talk about it. And it's just not being very good. I mean, we're at what did I say? We're 32%.
Yeah.
It's got to be in the high 30s, low 40s. Especially if you're shooting volume. And it's not just the percentage, it's the long stretches. Now, if we went 2 for 5, 2 for 6, but in stretches, it wouldn't seem as bad.
Right.
But like I said, 0 for 9 in the second half at UW kills you. 0 for 16 in or 16 in a row against Purdue kills you. And we had a first half lead. Stuff like that. So that's the biggest thing that this team, it's kind of the mid-season or right before the conference that this team just needs to do better at. And it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, hey, guys, like I said, give them a pep talk and you slap them on the butt and say, go make them. But there's not really things you can do. It's not like we're playing 5-out AU basketball and shooting pull-up threes with contested hands. We're not getting those type of shots. We'll shoot a few of them. That's basketball. But that's not all we're shooting. So it's like, hey, man, you're getting pretty good looks. These have to be knockdowns, And like I said, and hopefully this is the right context, but we just have to get to good. We don't have to be elite. We're not even good at threes yet. So that's where we're at.
Do you think that, like, you look at the stats for this season so far, like, do you think someone like Ben Gregg should maybe get out there more if he's shooting 40%?
Okay, that's a fair question, and it's been posed to me a few times. And so let's just deep dive into the numbers. So Braden Huff's at 10 for 24, so 11, so he's taking 2 a game, 22. Okay, so it's 2 a game. Same with Ben Gregg, 10 of 22. There's a fair case that maybe they should play more. Anton's at 40, though.
Yeah.
So he's their natural sub.
Right.
And he's only taken 20, so he's taken 4 and 2 less, so about the same amount.
Yeah.
2 a game. Let's call it 2 a game. So I guess maybe, but then how does that change your rotation? So then you got to say we got to go really small and as far as back to the basket threat. If you take Graham off the floor and you go Anton and then one of those other 2. So it's a fair question, and it's a fair, like, maybe that needs to be a tinkering. But it's not like Ben shoots stare down threes.
Yeah.
It's not like you can run him off like Julian, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not, and that's not a knock. It's just he's a stare down or a swing 3-point shooter. So I think his shots come naturally in the flow of the game. So maybe if you played him 4 or 5 more minutes, maybe he gets one other one up.
Yeah.
And maybe he makes that.
Yeah.
So it's a good thought, and it's a logical thought. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know that's a bad answer, but I'm not sure. But they are leading the team in threes at 2 a game, or 2 attempts a game. So that's always kind of like, well, it's still good, but it's not. You're only taking 2 a game. You know what I mean? I think 4 or 5 is when you can really judge how much your impact on 3-point shooting is within the game. But again, this team has a lot of potential. We're 8-3. We're 15th in the country. We're kind of a prisoner of our own success. I understand some frustration. I think it's the way we lost could be the frustration, because we just really weren't in that basketball game against UConn. But I thought we were good in Maui for the most part, except that stretch against Purdue. The UW game is the one, like I just said in the last episode, you're going to look back at the season like, man, we could have had that one.
Yeah.
UW tried to give it to us a couple times down the stretch. Kudos to them, but just like a couple possessions where like, man, they don't even want to win this game. You know what I mean? Like, so it'll be interesting. But again, San Diego State, the 29th is going to be a big time game. I think it's kind of not a must win, but it feels like it. Obviously, you still have plenty of season after that, and we get into the meat of West Coast Conference. Then we have that weird Kentucky at Kentucky game, which is cool. That's a big game. Kentucky's playing really good this year, and then just going to Rupp Arena is pretty neat. That'll be cool experience. Yeah.
So I was just going to say, we are going to take a break for just a week. Got Christmas, New Year's coming up.
Cool.
So we'll be back for the beginning of the WCC season. And we'll talk about, the games coming up. And I thought we can maybe like look into like the WCC season, and like after this San Diego State game, I feel like we'll know, I think the question I want to ask in that show is like, how many WCC games do we think Gonzaga's losing? I don't want you to answer that now, but like I think
I'll think about it. Yeah.
It's definitely something that like it's gonna probably happen this season just by watching the team. Like I don't know if this team's like the team that can run through the WCC, but maybe it can. I don't know. It's just like it's one of those you never know with Gonzaga sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of always like the WCC season is its own beast.
It is. Yeah. Anytime you get into the league and teams are recognized yet, and players have played against each other, and your tendencies, it can be. It's not a season where maybe 2-3 years ago we're like, they're going to go 16-0, and how much are they going to win by?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not that type of year, and there's nothing wrong with that. Last year, that wasn't that type of year, and it was way more fun as a fan and a commentator. I can tell you that much. Like it was awesome.
Yeah, I don't like watching blowouts. Like I
don't either.
Watching Gonzaga score 120 points and the other team scores 60 is it's boring.
It's boring. It really is, and it's bad. It turns into a bad product. Not that we don't like that type of dominance, but then it's like for 2.5 months of your season, you're just like, this is not even going to be close.
Yeah. And
if it's close, maybe for a half, and then we go on a 15-0 run, and then it's like, change the channel if you're at home, and I get it. Like you said, we'll do a preview of kind of the WCC. We'll have a deep dive on where we think some of the teams are like Ken Palm and where they're at, and so you can kind of get a preview of the listeners of who we're playing and how good they are, and I'll be critically and brutally honest on where I think that the West Coast Conference is. But again, to recap the start, breaking news, it's pretty cool. Washington State and Oregon State will play in the WCC for men's and women's basketball for at least 2 years. Kind of cool. So local rivalry will be renewed, and I think that's good. And there's a lot of Coug fans, obviously a lot of alumni in Spokane and surrounding areas. So they're usually Zag fans on the surface, but Coug fans for football. And then if the Coug basketball gets somewhat good, then they piss away the Gonzaga fandom.
We have a cool WSU Boise State game tomorrow night at the arena.
Yeah, I saw that.
And some local interest in Tyson Dagenhart.
Mount Spokane.
Wow. And he's I'm taking my son to go see him play because like I want my son to be like, that's a kid that came from Spokane and now is playing in the NCAA. Like my son is very excited.
Yeah,
so.
His mom was my ninth grade algebra teacher.
I was going to say, and she was a basketball player at
Maine.
That
she I think they won the state. I think it was like 1990 and 1991. She won state when she was at me. I think they may have won it twice.
Yeah, her husband UConn was my cross country coach all through high school.
Yep.
And was an amazing cross country runner.
Yeah, they're a great family. Yeah. I worked out Tyson 3 or 4 times when he was in high school. Just at Mountainside Middle School, they'd go open it up. She was kind of asking me, like, Tiffany's her name, what does he need to work on? Okay, I'll give him some pointers, you know what I'm saying? But he had a great career at Mount Spokane. Kind of got screwed in that last year with COVID. Everybody did this. We're not trying to get on a political rant, but he just lost a whole season. They were really good that year. And he's had a great career at Boise State. I actually went to Boise State's practice when Wyoming football played there. So I saw Tyson, talked to him, and I obviously saw Leon. It's cool. He's done a good job there, 10 years plus. they're like
I didn't realize it had been that long. It's a long time.
He's winning like 20 games a year
Yeah.
and sneaking in the NCAA tournament, and so they're good, and he's got it kind of rolling in there. So it was good seeing him. But yeah, he's a great example of a kid that kind of a little bit undersized. Not the greatest athlete around the rim, but really smart kid, really smart player, super skilled, can shoot, makes all the right decisions, scores in the 15 to 18s a year. You know what I mean? Like just a really good basketball player. He'll probably play professionally somewhere afterwards. So yeah, go watch him. Go cheer on the Fighting Leon Rices. That's what I always call him.
Love that.
But yeah, I was going to try to go to that game, but I got too many other conflicts. My daughter's playing, and then I got another thing. I got to go to my son's practice. So cheer loud.
Yeah.
Drink a beer for me.
We'll do. We'll drink a $14 beer.
Yeah, no, those are the best at the arena. Those are everybody's fan favorite.
Yeah, for sure.
I went to the Kraken game.
Oh, you did? Oh, nice.
And it was Tyler Johnson was kind of cool. I didn't even know I was playing for the Blackhawks.
Oh, right. Yeah, he was playing for the Blackhawks.
And then I was, seeing Bedard, and then obviously the Kraken, they won 7-1, but it was nice walking in there and it's like, I'll take one, please. $18.99. You're like, yes. I love being in the stadium again.
Did Tyler Yamamoto score? He's a local boy.
Yeah, he scored 2 actually.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, he scored 2. It was awesome. The game was 7-1. They blew him out, but hockey's awesome. Hockey's probably the best sport live.
It's the best sport live. I cannot watch hockey on TV.
You can't watch it on TV. It's like baseball, but live, it's like, I haven't been to a game all year. I know enough about hockey, but like I know enough that like I'm not completely lost.
Right.
You form a triangle, you skate your ass off for 45 seconds, and you get off the ice.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's more. People are like, oh, there's more. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. It feels like
awesome.
soccer in a sense, but but a lot
You
quicker.
create, create chances, and then you just take a chance, and then you just skate your butt off back, and then get off the ice. New guys come in. That's all it is. It's awesome.
It's like
Back
trying
and forth.
to explain that. I went to a Chiefs game with my son. Like trying to explain that to my son is like this is something you just have to like learn yourself.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
because I can't explain it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, form a triangle, and that's
for
it. Thank you, McGilvery Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union, HDG Architecture. See you after the new year.
Yeah. See ya.
All right.